Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Steve, Patrick, and Mike from Cake Burger, and today we're doing the Two Over Comics weekend, not weekend, the weekly
review.
Fuck am I talking about? We're doing comic book reviews. I don't know why that was so hard to come out. I think it's because I said greetings and salutations. I was gonna say aloha because it's so hot out. I was feeling a little tropic today, but I decided to go the I don't know, the European route, I guess. But anyway, we're doing a show right now. We're trying to do a show anyway. And I'm going to shut up and let the guys introduce themselves. Here we got Patrick.
Hey, how we doing?
I'm going to do the calm voice. And I'm Mike.
Yeah. And a lot of people enjoyed that. A lot of people kind of found that reminiscent of like the Howard Stern Private Parts where the girl was straddling the speaker box. But I didn't see it, but I don't know.
My friend told me about it. I wouldn't watch that filth.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
We go to church on Sundays, you people.
I have 3 kids. I've only been intimate 3 times in my life, and it was really for procreation, not enjoyment. So anyway, speaking of which, we're going to talk about comics, guys.
Oh yes,
we got a whole bundle of them we're going to talk about. We got Patrick going to talk about 2 comics. Mike's going to talk about 2 comics, and I'm going to throw that like Pilgrim's Progress. I'm throwing that burden on my back, and I'm going to talk about 3 comics.
Oh my God!
So I guess since I have 3 and I have more to unload, I think I'm going to talk. I'm going to go first. The first issue I'm going to talk about, speaking of a burden and really going through trials and tribulations, we're going to talk about Spider-Man, Adjectiveless Spider-Man #4 by J.J. and Henry Abrams. The 4th issue that's when this was launched was what, 2017, 2018?
No, it wasn't that long, but I can see why. It's the equivalent to a Kevin Smith book coming out.
Bullseye Target, or like,
we finally finished Spider-Man Black Cat, a few years ago. But
I checked on the last issue. The last issue of this came out December of 2019.
I thought this thing was canceled.
Well, I'm pretty sure they've already paid the Abrams bros, so they probably get their money that.
Wait a minute, is it father and son? Is his teenage son writing the book?
I honestly think it's just J.J. Adams writing it with his son as a screen credit.
It's supposed to be Henry Abrams writing it, but I think his father's name is just on there, just like, hey, like, you don't know who Henry Abrams is, but you know who his father is. So, but anyway, this book, it's obviously written by one of the Abrams, either father or son, and it's drawn by Sarah Pacelli, creator of Miles Morales, co-creator of Miles Morales and Ultimate Spider-Man. The book picks off, if you can remember.
That's the problem. I've been reading this book too, and this book was going to be delayed even before COVID delayed everything else. So
the villain in this was introduced pretty quickly. It was like a typical J.J. Abrams,
mystery box.
Not that, but like a Lovecraftian kind of like like a character called Cadaverous, which sounds like a something you say when like you pull a rabbit out of your hat and you say Cadaverous. But anyway, last issue.
No, it's a dead body.
Yeah, this villain.
That's something. The medical examiners, the autopsy, a cadaver.
It's like when they leave something inside you, when they operate, the guy drops his Apple Watch in there, and all of a sudden, like, what is that? And the X-ray, he's like, oh, it's my watch.
Yeah, we X-ray that. We X-ray that when they drop shit in there.
But anyway, this villain whose name just rolls off the tongue. If you remember last year, this book was pretty much kind of like a male version of Spider-Girl. Pretty much, it takes place in an alternate future where Peter Parker stopped being Spider-Man. He's told his kid, "I know you have spider powers, but don't you dare put on that spider costume. Don't you dare be Spider-Man." And of course, his son, whose name is Ben Parker, becomes Spider-Man, and kind of like goes around. He befriends a girl. What's her name? Faye, who's kind of like the. She looks more. I think she's Asian American, kind of like a black cat to Ben Spider-Man.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The whole reason why he became Spider-Man was because the reason why Peter quit was because in the past, Cadaverous, great name like that.
Cadaverous.
He attacked New York, and then he attacked the Avengers and whatnot, and
we kind of get into that with this issue too.
Yeah, he kills Mary Jane, and then
Peter swears off being Spider-Man.
That's why he stops being Spider-Man.
So in the last issue, if you remember, Cadaverous kidnapped Peter Parker, and so obviously Ben and Faye, Ben Faye go looking for his father. We end up finding out that Cadaverous resurrects his old mentor. What's her name? Mika Tross, who's a character I'd never heard of before. But he does it by basically using the blood of Peter Parker. And obviously, as soon as it's almost like a Kane situation where she's a failed clone and kind of like she's really digressing into like a spider type creature, which kind of turns into like this version of like the Spider Queen, basically in this book. I doubt.
Yeah, they threw a lot of elements in there. From the Ultimate Universe is kind of thrown there with we'll get to that too. Like Mary Jane, not Mary Jane. I'm sorry. Peter's parents work for Shield, but then they work for Shield because they're scientists and not the secret agent. Like they were in the 616 universe, so but yeah, it's Batman. Yeah, it's a lot of elements in there. And also, sorry, real quick, it's also very similar to the plot of Renew Your Vows villain.
A little bit, yeah.
Not Final Crisis, Secret Wars.
We have Ben and Ray fighting the zombie Avengers, Zombie Hulk and Zombie Thor, all these guys with help from Stark Unlimited, I'm sorry, which Reva Williams is basically the active Iron Man in this universe. And then, what's her name? That's the new Spider Queen, basically kind of like, she sends all her children of Cadaverous' children to kind of attack, like, Ben and get them to kind of meet up where they are right now, where they're holding Peter. Peter's like, just kind of like being a sacrificial lamb, saying like, no, Ben, just go away. Don't worry about this. Let it, don't involve you. You're more important than what happens to me. And then we basically just kind of end the issue there, where it's like, the next issue is supposed to be concluded. So I'm assuming it's the last issue. We'll basically have a showdown between Cadaverous and his mentor and Ben Spider-Man.
It was a really short issue.
It was.
For it to be that short and then for it to be this delayed. Granted, I know it takes time to do a book, but it was really short and it was delayed for that. I mean, come on. I'm
guessing the artist is Sarah Pacelli, who's notoriously slow. And I'm guessing they may have had to wait on her because I follow her on Instagram and Twitter, and she seems to be doing everything but drawing comics at the time. So I mean, and as far as the art goes too, I love Pacelli when she cares and she's designing stuff, but this one kind of reads like every other book by her, where she's gotten bored for some reason or just doesn't want to do it anymore. So the art gets a little bit lazy, a little bit sloppy. And as far as the story goes, I mean, and it's not like. I mean, it's not offensive to me, so I don't hate it that much. If this was 1997 and we were told hey, back when we were told you'll never get a Spider-Man movie no matter what. And if this was my Spider-Man movie, I'd be fine with it in 1997 or 1996. Yeah. But right now, seeing the movies we've got and the stories we've got, it's kind of like this. It's not essential reading pretty much. If you're a fan of Pacelli and you're just you're a big J.J. Abrams fan, pick it up. But I mean, I don't know. To me, it was kind of meh. I'll just I picked out a morbid curiosity, and basically just a nervous tick is going to eat away at me if I don't finish this. So I'll pick up the last issue whenever it comes out, maybe 2023 whenever Spider-Man 3 Far From Home comes out. I'm sure this will come out at the same time.
Well, for me, I agree. It's kind of a meh story. I haven't been blown away by it. And you guys both know me that I had to pretty much almost collect every Spider-Man miniseries that comes out. And I haven't been blown away by this one. Why are we this is book?
It's fine. I mean, if you like Spider-Girl, if you like Renew Your Vows, if you like Spider-Man 2099, pick it up. You might like it. But other than that, I mean, it's for me. It gets out of 5. It probably gets a 1.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I would have given it a 2 out of 5 if anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my review on Spider-Man number 4. Who wants to go next?
I guess I'll go next since we're sticking with the alternate Earths, storyline, so to speak, or different Earths. So I'm reviewing Venom number 28. Look at that bad boy.
Ooh. Don't let the cover fool you, because this is not drawn by Ryan Stegman.
No, it's not. And that again, that's my biggest problem with all the Marvel books, is that each story arc is a different artist, which kind of takes away from the story a little bit.
I know. I saw the cover for this, and I'm like, oh, and then I open up, I'm like, oh. Yep. It's like fruit stripe gum.
So I kind of reviewed last issue for you folks, fine folks. So I don't have to go that too much of a back history on this. So Venom's currently on the parallel Earth or another Earth. And we find out that on this Earth that Anne, his wife, is now the new Venom. And that
well, she always was Venom, pretty much.
And oh yeah, on that Earth. And then the reason why Eddie was never on the Eddie of that Earth was never Venom is because when he went to that church, he actually did kill himself because of that noisy Peter Parker who has a mustache in this. And I'll get to that.
Which I love. That was the best part of the issue. The Peter Parker with a mustache.
And that I love these alternate realities, alternate Earth stories from Marvel Universe. I think like I said, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of What If, the Elseworld tales from DC, and even that dark metal stuff and the multiverse. I absolutely love. So this story I love so much because one, I'm also hoping to find out more about the Ultimate Universe, where the maker is the evil Reed Richards from the 616 universe, Ultimate Universe. But it hasn't happened yet. I'm assuming that will be happen eventually. Basically, in this issue, we have all the superheroes are venomized zombies, so to speak. They're not really, the things in it, Juggernaut's in it, Wolverine. They're not Wolverine with a symbiote suit. They're basically a venomized zombie.
Husks.
Yeah, basically. Because you've seen them get their head blown off, and then they're gone, they're dead. So with this, it's Peter Parker with a Venom suit. And it's
Cletus Cassidy.
Cletus Cassidy, who's a good guy in this universe. And then my dog wants to come down. Hold on, Gooch, I gotta do this review, then I'll come get you. And then
Venom's wife.
Deadpool. Oh, she got in.
Oh yeah, Deadpool. Yeah, I forgot
and,
Deadpool. Yeah.
Some new character, who I'm assuming is might be the girl who was Venom's sidekick. Flash Thompson.
No, is that Venom's ex-wife?
No, not her. There's another girl that's in it. That's hey guys, it's Gucci.
They can open doors.
Yeah, I can open the door to get you. Yes. I was also completely wrong about who Virus was. I thought it was Jack-O-Lantern.
Me too, which I was very let down by when I.
And we find out that it's Matt Gargan, the Scorpion from the 616. Who now gets once again gets in a new Venom suit. And now my question is he a husk of who he was, or is he just Matt Gargan with a...
No, this
Venom?
is Matt Gargan, because in the Venom comics, Matt Gargan was paralyzed.
Well, no, that I know, but like, is he now venomized like the rest of the heroes and villains of the world, or is it actually him with just a symbiote suit?
I don't know. I think it was a symbiote suit. It seemed like he was kind of still like he knew who he was. He knew he was Matt Gargan. He wasn't just some kind of like mindless symbiote person. I do the reason I understand why they kind of integrate Scorpion as like a regular Venom not continuity, the Venom universe, because during the Civil War where Eddie Brock gave away his not Civil War, during that Mark Miller Spider-Man series, the Marvel Knight series, where Venom Eddie Brock thought he had cancer, so he auctioned off the suit and ended up with Scorpion.
And then he was also the symbiote, the evil Spider-Man.
But I mean, for me, it's like, first of all, why would you introduce this cool costume, this new character, and just like for only one issue, and just have him become like, Scorpion, Scorpion is a cool character as himself. I don't know why they would I don't know, but I mean, and the other thing that bothers me too about this is like, is there anybody who can't fly a goblin glider or a platform thing? That's why I thought it was Jack-O-Lantern, because I'm like, it kind of seems like
they had the same type of pumpkin bombs that Jack-O-Lantern used, and
he kind of explained it was kind of like he just picked up wherever he could find on the black market or whatever. But I don't like the idea of like anybody just being able to jump on a glider and be able to like oh, this is easy, it's kind of.
And we all assumed, like, I remember people posting that it was someone from the Vault or from the Venom Lethal Protector series, one of those armored guys and whatnot, because they look very similar to that. And also the biggest part of this was that the Codex character in this Earth is actually Dylan, Eddie Brock's son, of that Earth. So this book has been fabulous since. It's like the Turtles book. I haven't read bad books since. What's his face? Cates took over this book.
He's really made a franchise out of Venom, like where Venom was kind of like, I mean, when in the 90s, I like Venom, their Lethal Protector stuff, and when McFarlane first introduced him.
Yeah.
But then when he went away, I wasn't like too upset. I was kind of like, all right, bye. Like, you know, so, but now it's kind of like, I actually prefer the Venom book over the Spider-Man book right now.
Yeah, that book is great.
And that's kind of a testament to Donny Cates and, like, you know, Ryan Stegman, who I think Ryan Stegman and Donny Cates are kind of like the Snyder and Capullo of the Marvel universe, pretty much, where they're kind of like this big, like, creative force together. Yeah, I enjoyed Venom. It was 2028, is that what it was?
Yeah, Venom 28, yeah.
Yeah. That kind of puts a hole in Larry's. I watched a couple of videos on other YouTube channels, and Larry had the theory that Dylan Brock is null. But that, I guess that kind of proves that wrong, I guess. So
I feel like that maybe in this universe, because it definitely has that null Venom symbol all over the world, that I feel like that maybe he's either the null of this universe or he actually killed Null. Because he basically, in this universe, he's pretty much venomized every human being, every animal on the planet.
Yeah.
He knows, he controls everything, basically. And there was one scene that has one of my ultimate favorite Venom poses. We'll see if I can find it real quick for you fine folks. This one right here, if you can see it. He looks so badass. That's my favorite Wolverine pose.
Yeah.
He looks so badass that way. Come here, Gucci. You cold?
So what do you get? What do you rate it out of 5?
I'm gonna get this 5 out of 5 for this one.
I liked it. I think it was out of all the issues he's done, this one was a little that whole virus reveal being Scorpion. I was a little down on. So I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. But and also, I mean, if it's not Stegman, then I'm kind of like, you know, Stegman kind of like is one of the main draws to this book. And if they can't have somebody who draws kind of similar to him, then I mean, it kind of points off for me. I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I agree. I probably I thought of it like maybe a 4.5 out of 5 because of the art, and it's not bad art. And again, as I said earlier, my biggest problem with the Marvel books of late is that a lot of them have been great. The stories are great, and the art's great, but it's not like consecutive art from the same artist. And
and we've discussed why that is, why our theories, why there's no consistency in art. So yeah, that's Venom number 28. Patrick, what do you got for us?
Well, we're going to go with the Batman theme. This is Batgirl issue number 49. And let me tell you, I want this on the cover. It says it's collateral damage for the Joker War. That is misleading. It has nothing to do with it. This is a
they usually never do when they have issues like that. It's usually there's nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Not only is there, this is buyer beware. If you spend $3.99 on this book, well, you just freaking flush your money down the toilet. Not only because this does not cover anything at Joker War, it's just that anyone that's been reading Batgirl, again, this is terrible. It's basically this homicidal maniac that's killing all these girls and he dresses them up like Batgirl. And she enlists the help of her brother, who's a psychopath, who is a serial killer.
Oh, Jim, from Black Mirror.
I tell you, if I'm gonna be a mass murderer, I want to live in Gotham City. I mean, God, you can kill.
I'm trying to get Gucci to come up because she's cold. I'll be right back, ladies and gents, and everyone. I gotta give her medicine.
Okay.
That's why she's down here.
Remember to wash your fingers.
I'm not gonna wash it.
Anyway, I mean, this book, it makes no sense. I mean, you got a serial killer. Somehow he gets out of jail. He's walking the streets. And by the way, Commissioner Gordon's son. I mean,
did you read the Black Mirror storyline with Commissioner Gordon's son, like the original one?
Yeah.
That was pretty good. But the thing is, after reading that, there's no way he should be walking the streets at all. As soon as he's spotted,
really?
he should immediately thrown in jail. He's like poisoning babies. You know?
Nope. If anything, and here's the thing. In fact, he's still alive, you know, that he's Commissioner Gordon's son. how does James Gordon Sr. still have a job?
I
The politics of it all.
I feel like have you watched the Harley Quinn show at all?
No.
It's first of all, it's really, really good. But I feel like they're kind of like turning that version of Commissioner Gordon into like the mainstream comic book version, where he's kind of like his marriage is falling apart and he's kind of like unraveling a little bit, pretty much. I think that they kind of like do it in the comics a little bit.
Yeah, that's like Frank Miller introduced that in the Dark Knight series.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to say, the people who did this book, Sixo Sushi, did the writing, and the art is by Robbie Rodriguez.
I was going to ask you about that. What do you think about the art?
A ranked amateur, and I'm going to tell you why. Because when I look at the pages, it looks like someone tried to touch up the art before they sent it to be colored.
That's
because
it
looks very inconsistent. It looks more than one person drew that book.
Well, Robbie Rodriguez, the guy who created, he's got created Spider-Girl. He did the Spider-Girl series. Robbie Rodriguez.
Well, he sucks.
He does suck. He's very graffiti, very like deviant art style, pretty much. And he also posted a picture of his asshole online, which I'm kind of over that.
I didn't want.
That's disgusting. But where is it?
Where?
What websites?
We say assholes. You come back.
What a way to come back to a conversation. I very professionally left to go take care of my dog real quick, and then I come back down to some guy pasting a picture of his asshole.
I feel like
I come back into it.
I feel like this book is kind of. I feel like when they started with the DCU, where they kind of started the Burnside Batgirl, they had like. First of all, I love that costume for one thing. I think they had a good idea of where they wanted to take Batgirl, but they kind of like lost their way, and they really haven't get the train back on track as far as what they want to do.
Well, it's being canceled after the next issue.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. People wonder why Dan DiDio got fired. I mean, does this storyline make any sense?
He didn't care. He wanted to reboot every 5 years. He wanted to do a crisis anyway and reboot anyway. The thing you mentioned about the coloring on this book, it's funny.
Yeah.
So our episode previous, I was praising the coloring of DC as far as the Superman book, Batman. But this book, I know what you're talking about. This book. Also, I'm not going to cover this book, but I read out of Action Comics by John Romita Jr. and Brian Bendis. They do this coloring technique, which a lot of artists do right now. A lot of like from what's his name. Francis Manipool, Jorge Jimenez, Pepe Lopez, where it's like almost like a mixture of like cross hatching and newsprint kind of digital like shading, pretty much, where it's done by a program on Photoshop, and they do it on John Romita Jr.'s art, where it's like so like egregious and it's like so needless. You see it like because John Romita Jr. doesn't need that if he has time. He can definitely put a lot of line art and like cross hatching in there, and it's just thrown in on like clouds and like backgrounds with stuff where you would normally have like a blotchy, more like digital coloring, but it's like just thrown in there. It looks so odd and like and horrible. Like,
but here's the thing, it's just a horrible book.
Yeah.
I mean,
don't put out books just because you feel like you have to, because it's an established character. If you don't have an idea for like Supergirl or Green Lantern or like whatever, just say don't publish the book. Just like
no kidding. Put him in the backup anthology series.
Like we talked about doing a detective anthology series and have Batgirl have some. I mean,
by the way, the author Cecil Castellucci could not write a story to save their life.
I haven't heard
a piece of living shit.
I haven't heard anything.
No, I never heard this person either.
Yeah,
I kind of wonder if it's a made up name. If it
like an algorithm of like
Yeah.
So you're not giving this a 5-star, Batback?
Dude, I wouldn't even give any stars. No, serious. It's a piece of shit.
I've heard bad things about this book. Well,
misleading title, and even when you read it, look at it, it's just they're two ranked amateurs doing the book.
I guess considering it's being canceled, it's for the good of the neighborhood. Put the sick dog down before it hurts anybody else.
Well.
So there you go. That's Batgirl. We're gonna kind of breeze through this a little bit because we got a couple more titles we want to do. I'm gonna do Daredevil number 22 by Chip Zdarsky and Francesco Maboli, Francisco Maboli did the art on this book. So we, as you guys have been following, everybody knows who's been watching the channel know that I'm a huge Daredevil fan. In general, I think this book right here by Chip Zdarsky has been really great too. It hasn't been like as action packed or like superhero-y as it like as Daredevil was like back when like I don't know, like Stan Lee and like John Romita were doing it, and that, but I mean, it's still very, very good. If you guys have been paying attention, you know that Daredevil has been accused of murder. That was like the first issue of Chip Zdarsky's run, and it wasn't accused because he murdered somebody by accident.
My only problem with Daredevil is I haven't been reading it, before Chip Zdarsky took over. I was kind of here and there with it. When did everyone forget that he was Daredevil?
During Mark Waid's run.
Yeah.
Which was something we'll talk about in a second. So this one right here, we at the end of they had this big fight in Hell's Kitchen with the Owl and a bunch of other villains like Stiltman and Typhoid Mary.
Oh, right.
Yes, it was actually pretty cool, and Wilson Fisk ended up joining the fights like that, and fighting side by side by Daredevil, and it was a really cool issue, really great issue.
Yeah.
And so. In this one, we have Daredevil after the aftermath where he surrendered himself to the law and letting himself being taken into custody. The thing is, the deal he struck with the DA was basically where they can't reveal his identity. He has to be prosecuted as Daredevil, and they can't print him or anything like that. Which also leads to another subplot we're getting where Fisk is going to try to reintroduce another superhero registration act, pretty much for vigilantes, which is being talked about in another book. And so we do that, but also I think Daredevil makes bail because Foggy's handling the whole the prep for his trial. And we get to this one scene where Daredevil has a team up with Iron Man, which is really because we talked about Iron Man #1 in the last episode where he's kind of having a midlife crisis and kind of going a little more street level. And I never realized how much I really enjoyed Iron Man and Daredevil interacting. It really felt like that 80s Marvel, what would you call Secret Wars era Marvel? Is that Bronze Age still,
80s.
or is that
No.
Bronze Age, or
is that the ends of the Bronze Age, modern age? I don't know.
I would say no, the Bronze Age. When did Secret Wars come out? In the mid 80s?
Yeah, it's like a transition between modern and Bronze Age, I guess.
Yeah,
but
it was the end of Jim Shooter's era. So let's call it the end of the end of the Bronze Age.
But it really had that feel where it's where Iron Man, he was kind of it makes sense for Iron Man to be kind of doing more street level adventures where he obviously he'd walk into Daredevil. But there's something that I really appreciate in a bunch of the Marvel books right now where it's the connective tissue isn't this big huge fight that oh my God, it affects reality and time and all that stuff, where it's the connective tissue of the Marvel universe is New York, pretty much, and them all existing in New York.
That is the Marvel universe.
Yeah, it really felt like you felt it in this book, and you're feeling it in the Iron Man book, and you feel it in a lot of other books too. And I really enjoy that. So Daredevil goes back to because I guess he called Iron Man. That's why they had the team up something like that where Iron Man was probably looking for him. And so they have this thing where Daredevil's listen, you have money, and our neighborhood's becoming gentrified. Our Hell's Kitchen is basically on the brink of becoming no man's land from the Batman series, because the government's given up on it. It's become this crime-ridden cesspool. What you're gonna do is you're gonna buy Hell's Kitchen. And you're gonna and you're gonna give homeless people homes, and you're gonna basically make it so save this Hell's Kitchen. And Tony's why the hell would I do that? And and he's he goes because it's the right thing to do. He goes because you said you gave up your company, you gave up all this other stuff because you want to do good and you want to do the right thing rather than the thing that's the most gets you the most clout or the most feeling of superiority, pretty much. And so he's I'll think about it. And then he looks at Daredevil and he's he goes, I do like the throwback, the whole ninja suit, the whole thing. He goes, but it looks like he used an upgrade. And and nothing becomes of it. He just besides that one line. But the cover has this armor, Daredevil kind of helmets like that. So I think you might see another. I don't know if this is gonna be how it was in the '90s where they had that Scott McDaniel, J.M. DeMatteis black and red one. But I think you might see a little Iron Daredevil for a little while. So yeah, we do that. He comes back to the office, Foggy. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, like you're getting ready for a trial, and you're out there busting skulls and stuff." And he goes, "Well, I called in help." And it ends up being Kristen McDuffel comes in. Kristen McDuffel comes in. Who, if you guys have been paying attention to Daredevil during Mark Waid's run, back when Daredevil moved to San Francisco, she was the district attorney, and when she joined Nelson and Murdoch when Foggy had cancer. And he was in remission, so she kind of like became like Daredevil's partner, and obviously, Matt Murdock can't keep it in his pants, so he became like Daredevil's girlfriend too. So she's gonna be representing Daredevil in this trial, and that's kind of where it leaves off right there. Again, it was a really solid issue. Zdarsky, I mean, like I said, it's not like it doesn't hit all the dopamine, but I mean, it's definitely a really solid issue, and I think Daredevil is such a consistently good issue. Kingpin, this is probably one of my favorite Kingpins since Frank Miller. Where he genuinely have you been reading this run of Daredevil at all, Patrick? Or
no, not really.
Right now,
if you can.
Right now, Kingpin is mayor right now, and it gets to where
I knew that.
Everybody obviously thinks he's trying to pull one over on New York, but he's like, listen, I've been the kingpin of crime. I've done all this. He goes, I generally want to fucking take care of New York, and I I know what I am. And it's funny because he's tried to go on the up and up with these Fortune 500 billionaires and stuff like that, and the part where they just treated him like shit because you're just Hell's Kitchen garbage, and we're glad you think you're making you're trying to sell cannabis and everything else, and you're trying to go on the up and up, but we know what you are. You're a fucking scumbag from Hell's Kitchen, and he just loses his mind in the bathroom and kills one of them,
yeah.
and after he kills one, he's he calls Wells. He's like, I don't know what to do. He goes, I'm trying to be good. And he goes, but I just saw red and fucking killed this guy gruesomely. And they're so they're trying to cover it. And he's genuinely trying to be not a good guy, but he definitely wants to be make a difference, a positive difference in in Hell's Kitchen in New York. And it's a really it's hard to explain in one issue, but if you read the whole thing in context, Patrick, it's really great, great take on the.
I get it. It's just. Wilson Fisk, he does have a little history of trying to do that.
Yeah.
To get out of crime. But the thing is, it's his nature.
It's that old trope where a bad guy never sees himself as the bad guy. You know what I mean?
No, trouble is, he does see himself as the bad guy. He tries to, okay, I'm going to do good, but at the end of the day, he is what he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like every issue that's come before so far, I give this a 5 out of 5. Chip Zdarsky, I think we all agree, is doing the Lord's work over at Marvel.
Him and Donny Cates, if they weren't there, Marvel would be so screwed.
Every book that Chip has done, Spectacular, Marvel 2-in-1, Daredevil, has been fucking gold.
Even his Star-Lord and Howard the Duck were great.
Why don't they let him draw something though?
Well, he's all right. I think he did draw. I think he drew Howard the Duck. I think he was drawing Jughead when he did the Jughead series over at Archie Comics.
No. I mean Marvel.
Well, I mean,
why doesn't? No, okay. He might have did Howard the Duck because it was a friggin' duck.
Yeah.
But they never let him draw when he did Marvel 2-in-1 and things like that. I mean, he's a good artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's decent. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you get to find the right book for him, I guess. Some offbeat character. I don't think I wouldn't want him to draw X-Men.
Robbie Rodriguez.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my review of Daredevil, and so yeah, definitely check it out. So yeah, I mean, pick up Daredevil. I always say pick up Daredevil. I've been saying it for the past 20 years right now since.
And I agree, Patrick. If you have a chance to read, we'll send you the website where we read comics for free. Not for free. Wink, wink.
When I send you that,
Patrick, pick it up. You'll fucking love it.
I already plan on sending you a care package with Batman Universe by Brian Michael Bendis, Patrick. So when I send you that, I'll send issues of Daredevil also. So okay, so where we leave off? Oh, Mike, so you're going next, right?
Yeah, next. So
my next issue of we'll stick with Batman. Batman Beyond, number 47. So I haven't reviewed any of the issues before Batman, so I'll do a little world building, so to speak, with what's been going on in that issue. So basically, Mr. Zero, basically, was took control of the League of Assassins from Damian, and has this plot to basically start another ice age and kill everyone on Earth, basically, and then repopulate the Earth, restart the Earth in the image of the League of Assassins. Damian Wayne goes get the help of Bruce, his father. We also, in this story arc, Dick Grayson's in it.
Really?
Dick Grayson also has a daughter who took over for Batman Beyond, for Terry, when he was kind of like had amnesia from False Face. He's a Batman Beyond villain.
Which honestly, it's about time Dick slipped one past the goalie with all the ass he gets. It's like it's only a matter of time before he knocks somebody up.
Yeah,
that's good.
And her mother, the person he knocked up, is a mystery. We don't know who it is. It's not Barbara Gordon.
Oh my God!
It's Bruce.
Yeah. Well, Bruce in the animated series timeline, it was Bruce and Barbara Gordon that hooked up, and that's not.
Nope, that didn't happen. Nope. That's a Bruce Timm masturbatory fantasy that
the whole problem with the Batman storyline. It started off where it was the future of the animated series, I believe, and then Future's End happened, and. And so I can't really tell you where this happens, because I don't think this is the same future or the same timeline of Batman Beyond of the Future's End one, where the world was taken over by, the robot thing, whatever the hell that was, way back. Brother Eye, I'm sorry. So, but this, I've always liked this. Is my favorite Batman book. I'm not saying it's the best by far. It's not, but it's my personal favorite. So basically all that went on. They take control of this like satellite base that's puts like this shield around the Earth that's blocks the sun, and that causes these snowstorms. Basically a new ice age starts. And on Earth, Bruce Wayne and Matt McGinnis, Terry's brother, all the power goes out, so the windows so basically what happened was there's a lot of world building, I should say, because I haven't done this book for you guys yet, and if you haven't read it, a
lot of world building in this issue.
Yeah. Well, no, the building up to this.
I was gonna say a lot of world building for a book that's supposed to be canceled in a few months.
I know.
Yeah. I think it only has 2 or 3 issues left.
I think it's going to like issue 50, and that's it. So
yeah.
The new Batcave is in Wayne's Tower in the middle of the city, and like there was like a protective force field around it that they could fly right into it, and no one will know where they are. The power goes down because there's no, because the snow and all the storms wiped out the power and whatnot. And basically all the snow is coming in the building. They get buried by snow. Barbara Gordon comes in with a new bat plane, Batmobile, and saves them. So that's what happens with them. Meanwhile, Dick Grayson, Batgirl, or Batwoman Beyond, Goliath, Damian Wayne's pet monster thing, and Damian and Batman Beyond and Dick Grayson, they all go and attack the satellite. Basically, when push comes to shove, they win. They save the world, and it ends with Damian Wayne teaming up with Bruce and trying to make the world a better place. But the great thing about this issue, because it's by Dan Jurgens, is that it ends with, which is now the final story arc, of Booster Gold coming back saying, if Booster Gold and Skeets can't complete this mission, then the future will be erased and it'll be a new timeline where Batman never existed. So
I do love Booster Gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this book probably a 4 out of 5. It was just, I think the reason why I'm giving it such a delay, not the perfect score, because it's my favorite Batman book, is because there was such a delay, and I forgot a lot of stuff too, so I think that's kind of affecting my score, so to speak. But the book's been great.
How many issues does this run for? The storyline.
Storyline, I think four or five issues.
Okay.
I'll probably have, once this is all done, read the entire series. But
Yeah.
this is a couple different volumes of Batman Beyond. Isn't that the third volume in the past like 10
I think
years?
so. Not counting the original volume of the companion to the TV show, the cartoon.
Yep.
And then it was relaunched where, like I said, it was it was supposed to be the future of Batman, and they introduced characters, what would they look like. Basically, they kind of mix all this stuff into the animated Sarah Tim universe, and this is what have happened in the Bruce Timm universe.
I do like the Batman Beyond universe. I will check it out, but there's so many books, especially with Batman. There's so many books; it's kind of hard to read them all.
And they never really, unless I missed it somewhere, that they never really, they just forgot the fact that the whole world was taken over by Brother Eye, and that Gotham was only the one that survived. At one point, Tim Drake was Batman Beyond.
I do remember that was around New 52.
It's almost like a big X-Men continuity, disaster.
Nothing is that. We'll talk about that later. Nothing is that bad, but I'll definitely check this out. But I'll definitely read it before I read Batgirl. So I'll check it out.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Mm.
Patrick, what do you got for us? Speaking of crazy, like, earth-shattering events and reality-altering things.
All right. Well, you know how much I railed against Batgirl 49.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the opposite. Flash 762. It's written by Joshua Williamson and art by Howard Porter. These guys are two pros. Basically, this is the last issue for these guys. They wrap up their storylines. If you remember the last issue, Barry was chasing Reverse Flash in the Speed Force. There was just them two. And basically, the big thing was Barry going to kill, Reverse Flash after all the shit he's done? He does not, because Barry Allen's still Barry Allen. No, I mean, yeah, it's cool. The funniest thing is, though, at the end, like, Barry tells to Reverse Flash, forgive you. I'm sorry I rejected you. I forgive you for all the shit you've done. That was the only thing that was kind of weird.
I feel like last issue, we never talked about last issue, but I feel like this issue and last issue were kind of like erasing Heroes in Crisis.
Yes, it was. And this definitely did, because I tell you one thing, like, sprinkled in this issue, they have picnic scenes, they have basically where all the Flashes are there. Basically, it's really, if you're a fan of Flash, this is a nice way to end, Joshua Williamson's long run.
Mm.
It's really great issue. What Barry does, though, he tricks Thawne, into, Barry's just going to stand there. And Thawne, what happens, he goes to try to kill Barry with the vibrational thing.
Yeah.
Well,
like he does.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
Like he does.
Oh, yeah. Now, I know. Yeah. But here's the thing.
I tried that with my
Somehow
wife one
Barry
time. But...
tricks him. And basically, Thawne gets erased from time. Erased from time. Not where he's the curator in the 25th century of the Flash Museum. Whatever happens to him after that, doesn't happen.
Mm.
In fact, all you see is Reverse Flash. They have his statue, but they have no history on him. Yeah. The one thing I thought was weird, there was this scene where Barry's going to pick up Iris. And, Iris is meeting Barry at his house. And she goes in, and Barry's talking, like, to his mom, who's dead.
Mm.
Like, here's like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. I did not understand that. Did you, Steve, or Mike, if you guys read it?
I haven't read this issue yet.
I didn't read this issue yet, but I mean, I'm sure they can explain it away by Speed Force.
Of course, but I mean, it's just that was the only
Have you been reading the book for this whole time?
Huh?
Have you been reading the book the whole time?
Well, I've been reading most of the issues.
All right.
You know,
I just don't know if maybe she showed up as her Flash ghost, Obi-Wan Kenobi ghost in a previous issue or something, or.
Well, supposedly the big thing about this, you know how Barry went, you know, Flashpoint, he went back in time to save his mom. That was the big thing. He stopped. That was the big thing. He
Butterfly
stopped.
effect.
Huh?
Little butterfly effect, like when he saved his mom.
Yeah. Well, that's it. When he set things right, that he put it in a way they couldn't do that.
I'm so I'm not gonna get into it right now because it's literally like a 20-minute story. Where I ever told you, Mike, how I came up with the idea for the movie, The Butterfly Effect, and it was I actually wrote a script in 2001, half a script, right, the treatment for it, and there was a creative consultant credited on The Butterfly Effect who was someone from UMass Lowell who I showed the script to. And they borrowed it, and I used to have hard copies, and they were all on those like disc drives, which I've lost right now.
Yep.
But for years, I've been like, it's been this like thing with my wife, like how I wrote the book, the Ashton Kutcher movie, The Butterfly Effect, and you got no credit for it.
But you should have been the one that did it, because then we wouldn't get Ashton Kutcher to be in it.
I remember watching that movie. Came out in 2003 or 2004. I remember watching that movie and being like, huh. And I ended up getting on DVD and going through all the credits and seeing that name, which was Chris McGrath on there, and I'm like, motherfucker! I'm like, I guarantee.
I remember you telling me that.
Like I fucking actually the way they did the time travel thing, I didn't have like all the horror elements, the body dysmorphia and stuff like that. Like mine was more like, but I'm not gonna get into it. Anyway, I wrote The Butterfly Effect. I won't put that out there right now.
Okay, but yeah. Well, anyway.
Sorry.
That's okay, Steve. We all have to.
It's just like it's just in me, like digging away at me right now. That I one day, like
taking your soul.
Yeah, one day I'll get like a knock on the door with like a check or something like that. Say, hey man, I'm sorry, like I stole you, fucking like.
Here's $5.
Yeah, Ashton Kutcher will show up and be like, you just got punked for like 20 years, where like you've been working a full-time job, making ends meet, and
now I'm gonna produce this fine podcast that you guys do.
Yeah. Anyway,
I give this book 4 out of 5 stars. I mean, if you've been following this is how you write and draw a book. I mean, it's just a good, entertaining book. I like the fact how it got rid of that Heroes in Crisis bullshit.
Yeah.
Maybe just get rid of Tom King.
I feel like between Batman and Flash, like they're kind of like all these guys started like with like a rebirth, like what's his name, James Tynion started Detective Rebirth and all that stuff.
Yep.
I feel like all these guys were on board with the mission statement of hope and like and like making like more of like a uplifting place versus New 52. Then Tom King came in and started backtracking all that, and I feel like all these guys like, no, like fuck you, Tony. We like you were sticking to what the original mission statement was, and like I feel like with like Batman and Flash, you're getting a lot of like okay, go write your Rorschach and Adam Strange or what the fuck you want to write, and let us handle the superheroes, like
Yeah.
Can they just let Watchmen die? Just let it be what it was, and like
they'll never do that because of the copyright.
And that's literally the only reason is so they keep the copyright, because all those characters were based on Charlton characters that DC already owns, like Blue Beetle and The Question and all these guys.
No. Yeah, they were originally supposed to be those characters, but they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Then they created Gibbons and Moore created those characters.
Yeah.
And they were basically, if somehow the Watchmen ever goes out of printing, they revert right back to Moore and Gibbons.
And that's the only reason why they keep on putting Watchmen stuff in there. Because that whole Doomsday Clock, like, you could have just used Captain Atom instead of Dr. Manhattan. Yeah. Like, and like, it's like, I don't know why they're doing this. Like, it seems, I enjoyed Watchmen. A lot of people say it's like one of the greatest comics of all time. I disagree. I don't even think it's Alan Moore's best comic.
No.
But I have no interest. That story was a complete story and a finite story, and I have no interest in revisiting those characters at all. Like
For me, for Watchmen, I'm not saying it sucked. All this hype that was for it, and then when I read it, I'm like, I mean, it was good.
Well, but the thing is, Mike, in the 80s, you gotta understand, other than The Dark Knight Returns,
which I felt like that book lived up to the hype.
But the thing is, Watchmen, that was the first book that ever did anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think Frank Miller was at the height of his powers doing the Batman story. You know, and plus there's only four issues.
Yeah.
And plus Batman's a lot more known than those. No one knew who the freak the Watchmen were.
Yeah.
No one. That wasn't even in the DC universe.
And we know someone who has gets an erection for Watchmen, like anything that's Watchmen related. You know, all the Watchmen stuff.
You know what? I enjoyed the Watchmen movie. I think the Watchmen movie is actually better than the comic.
Thank you. I thought that too. I thought that was better than the comic.
I really enjoyed the Watchmen series that was on HBO recently. It wasn't like, I mean, it kind of, that was like a proper sequel, I think, to that. And I mean, like, you know, take what you want from it, but I enjoyed it anyway. But I mean, as far as Alan Moore, I think Alan Moore's best work is Swamp Thing and like his other superhero work. But I mean, a lot of people think it's like, you know, like, I do get why a lot of people are like, you know, you shouldn't be making more Watchmen stuff because Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons, like, you know, but it's like, I don't think Alan Moore really cares as much as like fans think he does.
Yeah.
Like, you know, not anymore. I think he's past it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think he's past a lot of things, actually.
He is. Like, even like a lot of his DC work where he had the contract where that's why he did the Killing Joke, was like to fill out his like contract in DC. I think that was his last story for DC. Maybe not. Or maybe the Superman one. But anyway, but he kind of like, well, you always like this, and he's like, well, I'll just whatever bollocks. I'll write the fucking most seminal, like, you know, Joker story of all time, like, you know, like, and
Alan, supposedly that was Brian Boland's idea. Alan took it and fleshed it out. Supposedly, but that's what Ryan Boland says. So, who knows?
He said a little bit. But
well, I gotta get a lot of thumbs down from this because we were doing bashing the almighty powerful Watchmen.
I think there's a lot more people nowadays who are a little more like, hey, like, why don't you, like, you know, leave it alone, like, you know, like Watchmen. I think a lot of people would kind of appreciate. No, but I understand why DC does it, and I'm sure AT&T is like, you know, hey, Watchmen makes us a lot. It's Watchmen consistently sells as far as graphic novels go and trade paperbacks go. So I'm sure they're like, hey, every couple of years, make sure you put out that Watchmen one shot or like whatever, like, you know, that kind of thing. Which, I mean, I understand, and like, you know, I'm all for artistic, like, you know, like you know, like artists and all that getting their dues, and it was rightfully, but I mean, I don't know. It's like, I mean, it was a work for hire contract technically. DC was a little fucked up about it. No, but here's
the thing. No, it wasn't a work for hire contract. They were given with Dick Giordano the deal, because he was the president and publisher of DC at the time. He did not give them a work for hire contract. It was basically, you know, soon as they stopped printing the book, which seems insane now, but as soon as they stopped printing the book, the rights were going to revert back to Gibbons and Moore.
Well, to me,
what happened became so big, they're like, no, we'll never let this.
Well, to me, the reason why the deal went south with the way it went with Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons is the same reason why Vertigo eventually kind of folded the way it did. Because when Vertigo started, it was kind of the same deal. It's like, you know, you have all the rights to all these characters, but like, you know, if kind of the same deal with Watchmen. But I think the guys from Vertigo kind of realized, no, we saw what you did to Moore and Gibbons, so no, we get all the all goes to us. And I think, like, you know, there's a lot of similarity between the Vertigo and what happened with Watchmen with that. But then again, I mean, Moore and they signed the contract. It was a shitty deal. But I mean, like, you know, you live and you learn. I guess, like, you know. But
I guess.
This isn't something we're going to solve right now.
But
we're not
I know we're on tangent, but
this is a super tangent. We'll move on.
Let's move on.
I'm going to talk about the last book right now. Speaking of convulsing messes, I don't know, confusing messes. X of Swords, number 1, which is called where is it? I have it written in my notes. So it's called Creation. One of 22 of this.
Holy
This
shit.
is like the maximum carnage
Yeah.
for X-Men. Where
Which
it was
I mean,
so big of a story.
Which, you know what, isn't really, it sounds daunting, but I guess if you have 19 X-Men books going on, it's not really that big of a crossover, I guess. I haven't been paying attention. I was really on board with Jonathan Hickman's X-Men when House of 10 started and Powers of 10 started, or House of X and Powers of 10. And then I kind of fell off a little bit as soon as they started going on. For me, when it comes to books, you have 3 issues. With movies, TV, comic books, it's kind of like fishing, where you have there's 3 steps where you have you put out the feeling of what your run's going to be, and then immediately after is the hook. You need to have the hook right away, and then the 3rd issue or whatever, like the 3rd act or the 3rd song of an album, you're reeling it in, and it's up to you and the audience if you connect and if it's going to go anywhere forward. For me, X-Men fell off right away, right after the Powers of 10 and all that stuff. I've been reading. Wolverine's been pretty good. Hellions is all right. Martyrs I've been reading off and on, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big Jonathan Hickman fan, to be honest with you. But anyway, this big mega crossover, which comes right after the last mega crossover, Empire, is about basically we introduce some I think that hasn't really been explored that much, which is Apocalypse's origin. Which, surprise, surprise, we're doing another X-Men storyline with Apocalypse. And so we real he had these children back from his inception, which were basically the original 4 horsemen. And the whole story is kind of not narrated, but kind of curated through this girl called Saturnine, which I always remember the Smashing Pumpkins song Saturnine whenever I hear that name. And if you read the story, you kind of see the way it's being set up. She's basically the Shang Tsung of this storyline, pretty much, because and the way the story plays out, which I'm not going to get into, because this is a long comic book for one thing. I think it's something like 40 pages, or more than that, and it's all exposition. It's all exposition, and it's I literally I was reading the book and I'm like, how many fucking pages is this thing? And and the art's I say it's written by Jonathan Hickman. I'm not even going to mention the artist because it looks like every other generic artist X-Men has had in the past year. We talk about Apocalypse. We end up going back in time to see his kids, and Apocalypse sheds a tear because he finally experiences regret, and his kids see that as something of weakness, and so they end up his daughter plunges one of the swords through Apocalypse, and we're setting up this big almost like I said before, Shang Tsung, it's Mortal Kombat type tournament, pretty much. It seems like. Not so much
everyone has swords,
and that's the thing is we get the sword thing because it's kind of this tarot card thing where we start the sword of blah 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 and the sword of whatever, and it's I don't know. For me, this wouldn't be if you've ever been an X-Men fan ever, since X-Men's been a thing, you've never walked into X-Men and it hasn't been this big confusing mess that you're walking into, and hopefully the storyline going on is good enough and interesting enough where you want to look at the back issues and kind of find out and kind of catch up, or you want to find out what's going on. But for this, no, I mean, like I said, this doesn't even feel like an X-Men book. It just feels like some kind of weird science fiction tale that I have no interest in whatsoever. I don't care about Apocalypse. I liked Age of Apocalypse back in the day, but
it's time to give him a rest.
Yeah, and the whole thing with the storyline is basically where is it? I have a couple of notes right there where Apocalypse, but kind of obviously Apocalypse. Everybody's on the same kind of level playing ground in this new Kuroka X-Men universe where they all live on the island. There's no bad guys, there's no good guys, and everybody's banging each other and and coming back to life. And Apocalypse basically on the side of making these portals to come and go as he please, to go different places. There's been connections to the Excalibur book, which I haven't been reading. So basically we have this whole storyline where this has been a reoccurring character in X-Men called the Summoner, Karako. And I'm not even going to get into it because this is boring. I can't even make it interesting by explaining it. Basically she betrays everybody and now we're leading to this big event. And it's 22 issues, and then after that we go to King in Black, and then I'm sure Marvel will have another.
And the fact that I mean, I will say that's the biggest problem of Marvel of the past 10, 20 years, whatever you want to say. It's always been some big event after event after event. And when I saw this was like 30 issues long or however long it is, I instantly stopped caring about this.
Well,
And it's
Mike,
off
I'm glad
the
you
rails of another
said
big
that.
X-Men event.
I'm glad you said that because you know what? I think the general comic fan is tired of these big event books. I hardly ever buy a Marvel book because I'm tired. What, Empire? Who give a fuck about that?
And you
No,
know
it
when Patrick swears like that, he's pissed.
No, really, I mean, these event books, hardly anyone cares.
No,
I mean,
honestly, when this whole COVID thing happened and everybody shut down, like there was so many opportunities to do things for the comic industry. First of all, everybody wanted Marvel versus DC again,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
for a while it seemed like that was going to happen. That would have been something that, I mean, and a big complaint before any of this was like, you know, Marvel flooding the shelves and like all these crossovers that you had to buy all these tie-ins for nobody cared about, and Marvel's like, well, we're not going to do that anymore. And then we come out of like the shutdown. And it's like, oh, by the way, here's like 3 mega crossovers back to back to back to back.
yeah.
Like, you know, and it's
Even
like,
with Venom, like I love the Venom book, but I'm like, when are they gonna end this whole Null storyline? I thought they already ended it issues ago, where Null was killed, and now he's alive again still, and like,
which
Yeah.
for me with those, but it seems like if you're like the Donny Cates universe, pocket universe within the Marvel universe, where like if you're reading a book like, you know, the Null and King of Black, all sorts to do with like, you know, Venom and Thor and Silver Surfer and anything else he's writing, something like that, you know. So that's kind of one thing. I mean, with X-Men, I mean, like Patrick, you've been reading comics for a long time. Mike, you've been reading comics for a long time. With X-Men, you're never not hitting the ground running when you jump into an X-Men book. You can't be a casual fan. You're either like, you know.
Yeah.
You jump in like, oh, am I willing to subject myself to this or not?
I think maybe in the '80s with the Claremont run, maybe.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this with Hickman's run, it doesn't really mesh with the rest of X-Men lore. They've come before.
But Claremont with Byrne and Cockrum and the guys who came later, you know what? That stuff was worth reading.
Yeah.
Well, it's like it's at least
created new stuff.
At least their stuff kind of coincided with what came before. This was just like Hickman's X-Men is just completely like not. It's almost like when Grant Morrison took over. Well, when Grant Morrison took over, it was kind of like, you know, it's like, well, what books have you read, Grant Morrison? He's like, oh, fucking nothing. Like, you know, but it was actually kind of cool, and they ended up going back to like, you know, it didn't like stray so far away where you could never go back. With Hickman, it's like, you know, you could never go back to regular X-Men unless like you blew up the island and got rid of the whole coming back to life thing and this and that.
I wish they would blow up the island.
And we'll see what happens. I mean, I'll give them one. I'll play devil's advocate. It definitely shook up the X-Men franchise in a way that it needed, because for a while X-Men, no one was talking about X-Men for the longest time. They were doing like vampire storylines and
it was
else.
horrible.
Yeah, so I mean, it definitely dusted it off and got people talking about X-Men again. But I don't know.
I didn't mind the people that the artist and the writer that was on it right before Hickman came on. It was actually starting to get pretty interesting again.
You say that I know you're talking about Matthew Rosen. I hated that.
Yeah,
that
really. I actually really enjoyed it.
But
I actually was reading the X-Men, and then I stopped when Hickman came on because I just didn't care about, you know.
I did like how I don't know where a lot of people too say like you have to like wait till the end. Like Hickman plays the long game, and it's like that for Fantastic Four and Avengers and Secret Wars. You have to wait till the end and be like, oh, okay. But for nowadays, there's so many options and there's so many books where it's like I don't have the time or money to be waiting.
Exactly.
I think this thing's got to pay off.
Who has time?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. DC is canceling all these books, and they might. Who knows? Those books might be digital at one point. You know. And Marvel keeps creating all these new books, and like now you're gonna get. You remember that Sword Agency that came out after Shield fell in the Marvel Marvel Universe years ago in the comic books. Yeah. Now somebody's gonna, because they're doing this X-Men Sword storyline. Why not bring back Sword? Because they've been with, you know, the X-Men for a while, back when there was the Astonishing X-Men and all that.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, I'm kind of all drawn out from the Marvel event books.
I give this book a 0 out of 5 because this was like offensively boring and offensively not X-Men, and I hated it. I have no interest in reading the rest of it, and I just a fumbled play by Jonathan Hickman. I think. I mean, maybe who knows? Maybe it might end up being like, you know, a cool story by when all is said and done. when Hickman's run is over. But for me, it's not a cool X-Men story at all. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what I came for. I came for X-Men, and I got this Game of Thrones, like, I don't know, bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my
All
review.
right.
This is gonna be a long episode. This is gonna be like almost a 2-hour long episode. I'm gonna do some serious editing, I think. This may not come out today.
My wife's probably getting angry because we haven't eaten yet, so I think we're going to have to sign off soon.
Oh, geez,
All right.
Louise. Yeah, so we're going to sign off. I'm going to really quick. I'm going to tell you guys, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and enjoy lots of more content on the channel right now. Give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time, guys.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.